Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel. Today is the 22nd of May and we will try to discuss all the significant events that have happened this week. And as you know, a lot of important and bright events have happened during this period. So let's start from the Kharkiv area. This is the Kharkiv area. As you can see, this map has been updated. And for now you can see two colors. There is at least three options. The red color, like blue-gray color, and the territory without color. What does it mean? The red color is the color that says that this territory is under the Russians. The blue-gray color means that this is the territory that Ukrainians managed to return over their offensive operation or over the Russians regrouping. And the territory without color means that this area belongs to Ukrainians and that the Russians couldn't get there or take any town under their control. This week we saw how Ukrainians developed their offensive operation towards the Russian border. The Ukrainians were trying to push the Russians and they were planning to color this red territory to their blue-gray color. That means that they were trying to push the Russians from these lands. But a very critical situation in Donbass, this is the Donbass, forced Ukrainians to stop their offensive operation. And to move some forces from this area towards Donbass. More than that, according to the Russian sources, the Russians are saying that some Ukrainian forces were encircled in the area between Ternovo and Drubizhnoye. It's Drubizhnoye that's located in the Kharkiv area. But we didn't get any improvements later. Maybe it was a fake news, maybe the Ukrainians managed to escape this encirclement, who knows. But we can say that by the end of this week, by the Sunday, the Ukrainians stopped their offensive operation. We saw a video how Ukrainians established their Ukrainian flag somewhere in this area on the border. That means that they're showing the world that they managed to cross to reach the border and they're stopped. And as we discussed in the previous videos, the Ukrainians are preparing their front line, their defense position, their fortified area on this line. So we can say that the Ukrainians are not planning, at least now, to push the Russians from this territory totally. They understand all the process, they understand all the difficulties, and that it's too dangerous to leave Kharkiv and to go away from Kharkiv for a very big distance. So they decided to push the Russians, and they achieved a lot of success, a lot of benefits by that. First of all, during this week, we haven't heard almost about anything about the bombing and shelling the Kharkiv. And of course, this is the result of this offensive operation. Now let's talk about the territory that located on the south from the Russian border, from this area, towards Balaklia, this small front line. According to the Russian sources, the Ukrainians managed to cross the Seversky Donetsk River near territory of Stary Saltov, and they moved their commandos and scouts on this side of the river. But later we didn't get any improvements, but the Russians are saying that the Ukrainians are still there. This front line is stable, and there are no more movements in any direction from both sides. Now let's talk about the Izyum bridgehead. Izyum bridgehead starts from the Balaklia, this is the town Balaklia, towards the Lyman area, and this is the Lyman area. So this Lyman area and this is Balaklia, and all this entire line means the Izyum bridgehead. This is the territory we discussed yesterday about the Russians' attempt to establish the control of this territory during the previous century. During this week, the Russians were trying to push Ukrainians from this land, from this territory. There were very heavy clashes. The Ukrainians tried to cross this river few times during previous week. More than that, by the end of this week, the Russians attacked this town Protopopivka with their Iskander rocket. There are a lot of forces on this line, from the town Chepil, Protopopivka, Zavgorodnya. There are a lot of Ukrainian forces, and this is the area where the Ukrainians announced they're planning to start their offensive operation towards Izyum. So the main idea was to cross this Seversky Donetsk river and to push as much forces as possible towards Izyum. We discussed a lot of time that this is the forest and it's a very nice place to hide for the Ukrainian commanders, for Ukrainian vehicles and so on. But in the middle of the previous week, the Russians announced that they destroyed the pontoon bridges in the south of this area on this line, and that they destroyed entire group of Ukrainians that crossed the river in this forest. And after that, the Russians updated this map. That means that they have established control over almost the entire forest. There is just one part in this forest on this side of the river. It's the north-west part of the forest, and this line is marked as the gray zone. That means that Ukrainians, I think that they have some forces in this area, and from now on there's very heavy clashes. Now let's talk about the main Izyum bridgehead, the territory between Velika Kamyshovaha and the Lyman area. In the beginning of this week, the Russians announced that they established control over the Kamyshovaha, Velika Kamyshovaha, and that they complete their clear operation in this area. This is a very important town because this town opens the road towards Grushovaha. And as you can see, the Grushovaha has two roads. One road leads further to the town Lozovaya, and another road leads toward this line of where the Ukrainian forces are located, Petrovska, Zavgorodnya, Protopopivka. More than that, this road leads toward Balaklia. So this is the road, this is Grushovaha, and this is the road, and this road leads towards Balaklia. As far as I understand, in a week or two, the Russians will try to establish control over this road, and they will try to push Ukrainians from these towns. And with help of that, they will reduce the Ukrainians' attempts to cross the river and to attack the Russians right in their back. One of the most important updates regarding this territory is that in the beginning of this week, the Russians announced that they established control over the town Dovginka. The battle for the city of Dovginka has been going on for almost a whole month. But a few days later, after the Russians announced that they established control over the Dovginka, we got some evidence that Ukrainians, they were pushed from this area, but then they did their counter-offensive operation. And now, as far as you can see, this town is split in two parts. The northwest part is under the Russian, and the south and the east-south is under the Ukrainians. And this area is very important because this town opens the way towards town Dolina, and it opens the way and possibility to cut these two forests, because the Ukrainians, they use these forests as the bridgehead for their commanders and scouts. And using these forests, the Ukrainians did a lot of damage to the Russians' heavy equipment, heavy tanks, and so on. Now let's talk about Lyman area. This area was splitted, and we can say that by the end of this week, the Russians has almost established two encirclements. The first one with the center in Svetogorsk, and the second one in the center of Lyman. This is the only area that Ukrainians has control over that located on the right side of the Seversky Donetsk river. So this is the river, and this is the only bridgehead that Ukraine has on this side of the river. The Ukrainians are fighting well in this area, but they lost the connection between these two cauldrons, and as we know, there are just one bridge in this area, and this bridge located in the town Svetogorsk. This is the bridge, and this is the only bridge that Ukrainians can use for reinforcement, resupplying, and so on. More than that, the forces that located in Lyman has no way to escape this area, and all bridges around Lyman were destroyed. According to the Russian sources, they're saying that there are around 1,000 soldiers in Lyman area and 1,000 soldiers in Svetogorsk. But I'll repeat myself, the forces in Svetogorsk still have possibility to leave this area fully equipped, and the guys from Lyman, they can't leave this area fully equipped, but they can just run, escape from this area on their feet. I think that starting next week, the Russians will try to attack Bogorodichny and to cut every single road from Svetogorsk to Slaviansk, and they will try to encircle Svetogorsk as well. Now let's move to the west from Lyman, and now let's talk about Bila Gorovka. We got no more news from this area. That means that the Russians couldn't establish their bridgehead in this area. The West sources map are showing us that there's some bridgehead on this side of the river, but we didn't got any improvements or any evidence of their successful operation. But we got a lot of videos from the Ukrainian side, from this area on the north from Bila Gorovka. We saw a lot of destroyed pontoon bridges, a lot of destroyed tanks, the Russian equipment, and so on. So for now on, I can't tell you anything. No, I can't tell you about any success of the Russians on the front line from the Yampol towards Rubizhnoye in this area. I can't say if there any success, any Russian success in this area. Now let's talk about Lisichansk agglomeration. This is the area. This is one of the most important and one of the most famous area after Mariupol. From the very beginning of this week, we began to receive disturbing news from the Lisichansk agglomeration. The Russians have finally established control over the town Rubizhnoye, over the manpowder plant Zarya. They announced their successful offensive operation toward Voyevodovka, and the Russians announced that they established control over Voyevodovka. The Russians during the previous week established control over the town Shidricheve, and the Russians announced that they have established control over some buildings and houses on the edge of the Severodonetsk town. More news we got from the south part. The Russians started their offensive operation from the forest, from the west side, towards Sirotine, towards Mitolkine, and towards Voronove, and towards Barivsky. So they're attacking along the entire front line here. But by the end of this week, we didn't got any information that the Russian has established control over any of these towns. We know that there are very heavy clashes and that they're trying to encircle entire territory. In the beginning of this week, we got an update that the Russians moved towards Novaydar, toward this railway station, a lot of Russian forces, and that they're prepared here some small base and some small center for repairing, for soldiers, and they're using this area to support and supply their offensive operation towards Severodonetsk. More than that, yesterday we got information that the Russians destroyed this bridge using their artillery. This is a very nice bridge. This is a very important bridge for the Ukrainians, because this is the shortest bridge between Lisichansk and Severodonetsk, and this is one of the most important artery to supply this area. Now let's talk about our flower, the flower of Popasna. And as the Russian saying, the flower has bloomed. In just a few days of fighting on this bridgehead, the Russians managed to increase the territory under their control several times. The Russians established control over the towns Alexandropolye. They established control over the west part of Kamyshevaha, this area. They established control over the town Viktorovka. Now they're fighting in the suburbs of the town Vasilievka and Lipove, and some Russian sources are saying that they established control over the Lipove as well. According to the Russian sources, they established control over the town Tripoli, Druzhba, Volodimirovka, and they established control over the town Novokamyanka. More than that, they moved to the south from this bridgehead as well, and they established control over the town Novozvanivka, and they moved further to the town Troitske, and they established the control of this town as well. If we take a look at the Russian sources map, they have updated their area, they have updated their control, and now you can see that they have increased the territory under their control several times. So this is the reason why they're saying that the flower has bloomed. And now there are risks for the Ukrainians to be encircled. At least the Russians are saying about few cauldrons in this area. The first cauldron is Zolotoye Girske. This is the cauldron because the Russians are moving towards Vrubivka, and the Russians are moving from Orekhovo towards Girske, and the Russians are moving from Nizhny towards Tashkovka. And I think that this is the main goal for the Russians for the next week on this front line. And if Russians are able to do this, we can say that around 5,000 of Ukrainian soldiers will be encircled. Another cauldron that the Russians are speaking about is the Svetlodarsk cauldron. As I told you before, during this week the Russians established control over the town Troitske, and now they're moving from the Troitske towards Gorlovka. This is a very long way, of course, and this is not the discussion for 1 week. This is not 1 week operation. They will do this operation of several weeks, but now we understand their main lines of their attack. Now let's talk about another flower that still hasn't bloomed, but as I see, it's about to bloom, and maybe the next week this flower will bloom as well. This is the Avdiivka area. As you can see, the Russians has updated this territory. Now they're showing that they increased their territory also several times. They established control over the town Troitsk and Novoselovka. Now they're fighting in the suburbs of New York. They're trying to crack Avdiivka nut, and they're doing it very slowly, but they're doing it step by step, trenches by trenches, and so on. Now let's talk about the Mariupol. As you can see, the Russian sources map has updated, and the Russians has colored this plant in red color. If we talk about the West sources map, they did the same. So we can say that during this week the Russians has captured the Azovstal, the Mariupol totally, and they cleared this territory totally, and that Mariupol is under the Russian control. Now let's talk about the south, about the Zaporizhzhia front line. More news is coming from this area, and there are a lot of Russian forces in this area. Some sources are saying that the forces that were engaged in the Mariupol operation were moved towards this area, toward this front line. The Ukrainians, they have 4 sieges in this area. Kamyanskaya siege, Orekhov siege, Gulyai-Polye siege, and Velika Novoselovka siege. This is very important line for the Ukrainians. And if they are losing any of these sieges, it can be another flower from the Russian side. And I repeat myself that a lot of West analytics are saying that the Russians are preparing themselves in this area for another offensive operation towards Zaporizhzhia. According to the West sources, they're planning to attack Zaporizhzhia from the both sides. More than that, the Ukrainian President Zelensky ordered to the governors of Dnipro and Zaporizhzhia to start preparing the defense line around the town. This is a very important town, and this town plays a very big role in the Donbas operation. So we'll see what's next. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, and enjoy your weekend. Bye bye.